What's up, guys? Four-wheeler doctor back again. Got another little 500 Foreman in here tonight. This is a 2016 model, I believe, and it's got some, thinking, fuel pump issues. It will run for a little while. I say a little while, less than 5 minutes, and will just fall on its face, cut off. Sometimes it backfires. You let it sit for a little bit, then it'll crank back up and run fine. But I'm leaning toward a fuel pump on this thing. I did check the fuel pressure on it. Pressure's holding about 50 psi all the time, and it fluctuates a decent amount as it's sitting there idling. And if you hit the gas on it from time to time, it'll drop down to, the needle just probably hit down to maybe 35 or something sometimes. I was kind of expecting it to just fall on its face when the bike dies, because you can actually have it just sitting here idling and it'll cut off, but it didn't. It still maintained there just a hair below 50. Just kind of checked the injector. I didn't actually pull it off and clean it, but stuck a screwdriver on it and listened for it clicking, and it still keeps clicking the whole time after, or right as soon as it cuts off, you can still hear it clicking. So I'm thinking it's not an injector. I know these things had a lot of problems with pumps on them. So I'm going to see about replacing the pump, and we'll see how it works out. Just to pull this thing apart, if you hadn't already taken your four-wheeler apart before, these center pieces come off very easy. Pull them out here. I've actually already pulled this one off, but pull both sides out. There's two slide connector like things up here at the front. They're like a rubber grommet that a nipple sticks into. And you can just pull this whole center portion out all at one time. You can see I still got my pressure gauge rigged up on here. I had another hose from another bike, donor bike, and just rigged this thing up just to check it. Yours won't have all this naturally. But to get all this stuff out of the way, you take and pull your little snaps off of your, I've already pulled this off because I had to get it loose to put that pressure gauge on it. But you pull your snaps off of this computer here, slide it back and kind of lift up on it, and it will expose a 10mm bolt that's in here. Remove that 10mm, and this will loosen up your electronics holder, I guess we'll call that. There's two little nipples, rubber grommets at the bottom here. Also, there's a vent line you have to pull loose for your fuel pump. So pull that loose, and then unplug your fuel pump wire right here. It's got one little push pin on one side, or push lever, whatever you want to call this thing, on one side. It slides right up, and you'll need to pull your spark plug wire off, because you can't get this electronic stuff out of the way with the spark plug wire still in there. So wiggle all this stuff out like that. And I like to just lay that over right there. And that's going to expose our pump. So let me see if I can get this camera set back up. The pump's under here. It's got a little cover there, as you can see under it. And to get these fuel lines off, the easiest thing to do is just take a pair of needle nose pliers and squeeze. In this case, it's orange connector. Squeeze both sides of it. You got to squeeze them fairly even to get them to push in the same amount on both sides, and then it will slide right off. Kind of wiggle it. You can see I got it pulled off. I just need to get it slid all the way. There you go. And there's your connector. I'm gonna have to completely remove that line because we're not gonna leave this one on here with the pressure gauge. You also want to pull this orange connector off. It's split on one side, not on the other, so pull it off naturally on the split side. I don't think the new pump will come with that, but if it does, we'll adjust as we get there. Go ahead and take this vent line off. It's got a little crimp connector on it that you can actually slide that back with your hand, but the hose will not come off unless you use a pair of pliers. And then that will let you remove this. I guess this is just a protective cover over top of the fuel pump. And that exposes our metal ring that we have to take off. This is a very clean bike. It's a 16 model. It's only got like 500 miles on it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm sure yours is probably not gonna look this good. I'm going to take an air hose and blow this off just to get any contaminants that could fall in there when I pop that cover off out. And then I'll cut the camera back on in a second and let you see me pop the cover off, or pop that ring off, and pull the pump out. All right, guys, got this cleaned off a little bit. Take a screwdriver and a hammer and rotate this metal ring around. You actually have to rotate it. That'll be counterclockwise. Kind of pay attention to the way your outlets come out here. Make sure you get it clocked back in the same direction when you put it back together. So let me tap this thing off and see if we can break it loose. Just like that. All right, now your metal ring's loose. And then you can see this pump actually has a plastic, I guess, locator there that needs to go where this arrow points. So I guess you really don't have to care. It doesn't really matter which way it's clocked, but you need to make sure this extra cog here matches up with your arrow. So with all that being said, now we should be able to just lift up on this thing. It may have an O-ring. I'm pretty sure it's got an O-ring on it. Lift up on it a little bit around. I hadn't done one of these things in quite a long time, and I forgot how you get it out, but hopefully it's not going to hit this handlebar stuff here. It does have the float on it. That's about all these fuel pumps. That's about the hardest thing to get wiggled out of there, is the dang float hung off to the side. So I'm going to push down on it, see if we can get it to clear and not make too big of a mess, as I kind of already have here. There we go. So comes out just like that. Pours gas all over the place. Throw this in my drain pan. And so I purchased a new one of these off of from Honda. Oh, where you at? There's your part number. And it comes as a complete unit. There's nothing you had to add to it. And it looks like it's got all the connectors on here, so I don't think we're going, well, you will have to, I am right, you will have to reuse this orange connector that was on the pressure line, but it's got some little nipples over the outlet and the vent, and a little snazzy little cover over the electrical plug. Has the float on there and everything. So we're going to see if we can get this thing fished back down in here. I guess that's going to be the word we're going to use. We'll stick the float in there first. Stick the rest of it down in next. Just like that. And then it's actually, there's springs on these right here. That's actually what you heard hit a while ago. But the springs need to be pushed down to get this thing seated all the way down into the fuel tank. And then now your cover will go back on that, or your ring will go back on next. You have to hold this thing down. Get all this lined back up right. Kind of get the cover started halfway by hand, and then tap it the rest of the way in. And just like we remove this thing, you may have to tap one side and then jump over and tap an adjacent corner there. But you want to make sure it's tapped all the way around till it seats all the way in there. There it went. That seated all the way up. I'm gonna go ahead and remove these nipples because I'm not sure or these protectors. I'm not sure if I'm gonna be able to get the cover on here with the protector still on. And the way this thing goes on here, you fish the hole over the vent line. The pressure line actually has a slot in it. Move that little fancy cover for the plug. Stick it on there, or take it off. And so now we can put all these vent lines and pressure line back on. Slide that vent line back on. Slide the clip over with your hand. Go ahead and remove this, the other end of this is the throttle body. Like I say, you're not going to have to do this on yours because the only reason I had to do it was because of my rig up with my pressure gauge. So we'll put the original one back on. And these things work better. I'll show you on this throttle body, but they work better if you put the connector back into the holder here, like that, and slide it on until it clicks. Just like that. This one here on this side actually has a little rubber grommet that goes around it. The one up there at the pump doesn't, but it kind of prohibits them little ears from getting pushed in for some reason. I'm not 100% sure what that's on there for, but we'll slide it back in there just because it was on there from the factory. And we'll try to put it back together like Honda had it. So we're going to slide that on. And then the other part here, this orange connector, snap it in just like that. And this should snap right back on here, just like that. Put your electrical stuff back up here. Fish this coil wire or spark plug wire back on, because it will not run if you leave the spark plug wire off. Fish your vent line back over the top of this plastic holder here. Vent line over here. Put those two together. I'm going to have to put a couple more little pieces on here, particularly at the throttle body that I took off earlier during my whole testing phase, so I'll stick that on later. Make sure you plug your pump back in, just like that. And time's really going to have to tell on this bike. I can't really show you if it really fixed it, because actually it's still got too dark and too dang cold over here to ride it right now. So we'll get back over here tomorrow when it's a little warmer during the day and ride this thing and try it out. And I'll put in the comments whether or not this actually fixed it, but I will show you that the thing will crank back up. It's good to cycle it a couple times just to get your pressure back up in your line, and hit your button. Fires right up. Like I say, I'll post in the comments to whether that actually fixed our problem, but I'm 99% sure that's what our issue is. These pumps losing pressure and making the bike cut off. So, well guys, I'll give you a little update on that 500 Foreman just left here. We put the fuel pump in it, did the same dang thing. So had a buddy come over and put a injector in it off of his bike, swapped it over, same thing. Changed the relay, same thing. Still cuts off. Didn't have to ride it very far, probably 5, 6, 8 minutes or something like that, and it would cut back and get to where it wouldn't run. So got to thinking might need to check the plug in it. Put a new spark plug in that thing, and it runs like a top. So this thing didn't have but 580 miles or something on it, but I think the guy doesn't ever drive it very long, cranks it up in his shop just to keep the gas circulating in it, and it wound up just being a spark plug. We've ridden it for probably 30-45 minutes over here now, and it run fine. As you can see, it just left on the trailer. So just wanted to update you guys. At least this is a video of how you can replace your fuel pump on one. I didn't take a video of replacing the spark plug because that's pretty self-explanatory, but you have issues with yours running just a little and cutting off, it's a good chance you need to change your plug out in it. All right, have a good night. Check out my other videos.